Hey guys, so today's video is finally going to be about the climate change tour. We are going to be exploring the state of Oregon, and we're going to be talking about how climate change affects Oregon and then some stuff that they're doing about it, because Oregon is the second most green city, the second greenest city. Yeah, the second greenest city in the US. So they are doing a lot of initiatives to help combat climate change and the effects of it. So I'm going to be talking about their climate action plan, but before that, let me tell you what is going on in Oregon as far as climate change goes. So, I guess let's start with... You done? Okay. So we are going to be talking about the climate first, and then we'll talk about everything else. So yeah, it's getting a lot hotter in a lot of places. That's why we called it global warming first. So Oregon is currently experiencing drier than usual summers, and I'll put a picture up of, I think it was July 17th is the day that they took this data from. And as you can see, it's very dry, and it's normally not this dry. So what does this mean? Why is this important? Why am I telling you this? Well, as we've learned from California, droughts are not good. So when there's a warmer climate, that means it's going to be a lot easier to start a wildfire, because all of the fuel that the fire would need is a lot drier, so it would encourage wildfires. The warmer climate is also affecting mosquitoes and their ability to come up here. Usually mosquitoes enjoy warmer climates, so now that Oregon is becoming a lot warmer, there's more mosquitoes that are coming up. And if you're like me, you fear freaking mosquitoes for many reasons. And honestly, like, my biggest fear is getting like HIV or the Zika virus or malaria from mosquitoes. And like, I feel like that should probably be a fear that everybody has. I mean, I'm not telling you what to fear, but you don't even see mosquitoes when they bite you. You don't even know if the mosquito's carrying any type of disease unless something happens to you. So, I don't know. To me, that alone is terrifying, because having like warmer climate and having more mosquitoes up here, like, we don't know what diseases they're carrying. If you guys didn't know, there's a lot more deaths that occur from mosquitoes than from sharks or any other type of animal. Another reason that the warming climate in Oregon is an issue is because of the salmon. And the salmon have been prominent to the Pacific Northwest for a very long time. Before colonists came to the Pacific Northwest, the previous tribes, the Native Americans that used to live on this land, they used to depend on the fish and the salmon, especially running through the rivers. We've depleted most of the salmon population. Yeah, I thought I would just chime in and say, yeah, it's not anyone's main source of food anymore, but this is an animal that was very sacred to the people that lived on this land, and us depleting their population is basically like a huge middle finger to their tribes and their beliefs. So I think that's also something that I forgot to include, to say that salmon is a very important animal for more than just having it in the river. If the water is above 68 degrees, salmon cannot inhabit that water because it's too warm for them. So whereas before it used to be like maybe like a month out of the year that salmon had to leave because the water got too warm, and then they'd come back. Now it's like it starts mid-July and ends in mid-September when they're not here. So the less and less that they're here, it's messing up with their habitat and their ecosystem. So that's another thing that climate change is kind of screwing up, as it is inhabiting all of the US. And luckily though, Oregon is very outdoorsy. It's a very hikey, like, if you're into outdoor stuff, go to Portland, because there's a lot of things to do out here. Because of this tourism, luckily we have people in our legislature that are actually caring about the environment and that are actually making strides to help with climate change. So the first thing that I want to talk about is a court case that I don't know if you guys have heard. It's Youth v. Gov is what their hashtag is if you want to look them up on like social media or anything. But the official name of this court case is called Juliana versus the United States. And it's basically a case where 21 kids between the ages of 8 and 21 are suing the government for infringing on their rights to life, liberty, and there's a better way to say this, but the ability to own land. And I'm gonna insert a clip from, actually, hold on. Let me give you some background before I insert the clip. So this court case has been going on since 2015. So this isn't like a Trump wanting to get rid of this court case. Obama tried to get rid of it too. And they were trying to appeal and use the mandamus excuse. I don't know lawyer talk, so I'm going to show you what mandamus means. I had to look it up too. But basically, it's saying it was an extraordinary case, that it was unprecedented, and that basically that it was BS. So I'm going to just show you.
What the complaint alleges is that the federal defendants collectively and through the fossil fuel energy system are affirmatively depriving these young people of their rights to life, liberty, and property. And
but no different than anybody else. Whatever harm they're suffering the same as everybody else.
Actually, they are suffering different harm, and the federal defendants have admitted in various documents that children are disproportionately experiencing the impacts of climate change and will going forward. In addition, Your Honor, they will live far longer than you. They will live to late in the century, when the seas are projected by these federal defendants to be 10 feet higher. And in the evidence that's before you in Dr. Wanless's declaration, he explains that the seas could actually rise as much as 30 feet. So the significance of the harm, the monumental threat that these injuries pose to these plaintiffs is very distinguishable from the rest of the country.
That's fine. And,
Yeah, so I really enjoyed watching that. I actually watched the full length thing, and I'm going to link it down below in case you want to check it out. It's very lengthy, so if you're into watching things like that. The youth representative brought a lot of good points to the stand, and I think it's very important because while obviously the government is going to say that it's BS and that they don't have jurisdiction to do that, and it's an extraordinary case and it's unprecedented and whatever they said, I think it was valuable to hear that part where she mentions that these government agencies have already projected sea level is going to rise between 10 and 30 feet. And while people that are of the older generation, such as the judge, aren't going to be here to see that happen, these kids are, and these companies are infringing on their rights because they've known about climate change since the 50s and they've refused to do anything about it. So I think that this is definitely one of those cases that's going to create a path for more environmental awareness, especially because of all of the stuff that's happening right now with the EPA trying to get rid of the Clean Power Plan, to get rid of fuel efficiency standards for cars, for all of the stuff that they're doing right now. I think it's really important that people hear this. So I am super on board. Luckily, they ended up not granting mandamus. So this trial will, it was initially supposed to start February this year, but now it's going to start, I believe, November 18th. I'm going to put the date just in case. But it's going to happen here in Eugene, Oregon, in some courtroom. Sorry. Again, I don't know lawyer talk, but it's going to be happening in Eugene, Oregon. If they go off of scientific evidence, I feel like they definitely do have a strong chance of winning this case. Obviously, again, I don't know lawyer talk. There could be a lot of things that happen. The government might do something to dissuade the jury from ultimately siding with the youth, but I have a lot of faith in this court case, so I'm very happy that it's happening. And so just to conclude this video, I wanted to talk about the climate action plan, because Portland, the city of Portland, was actually the first city in the US to create its own climate action plan. And they have actually done an amazing job, because they had set a certain amount of goals that they wanted to complete by 2020. And they've actually already completed about like 83%. And they only have, I think it's 5% left to start, and that's either because of some legislature that is in the way of them completing those tasks, or funding, or it could be like a number of things. But I know a lot of people don't like the fact that they are continuing to build and like replace old businesses, so I don't have a comment on that. But I am going to talk about the fact that the buildings that they are building currently are primarily LEED certified. And so in order to get a LEED certification, you have to apply for it, and you have to do a number of things off of their checklist. It depends if you're going to be doing it for a new building, current existing building, or renovation, whatever it is. They have a list of requirements that you need to meet, and then based off of how many of those requirements you meet is how high your certification for LEED ends up being. A lot of the new buildings are LEED certified, and they do have solar panels, so I think this is definitely helping a lot with them meeting their goals. As well, the Cimate system, I think that their Cimate system is definitely easy to use, and it's a good resource. The city of Portland is also trying to push for rideshare programs, bike share programs, and like different programs of that type. And they're also pushing for more people to ride their bikes to work if possible, because that obviously helps cut down on traffic, and it helps cut down on CO2 emissions. It keeps you healthier. Like if you live in a bike riding distance from work, it's always a good idea to choose that route instead of driving. It definitely with traffic, it is definitely worth it. Portland has a bridge that is only for people and bikes. No cars can go on that bridge, which is really monumental because it's one of the first bridges of its kind. So they are definitely pushing for those types of greener initiatives. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about let's see if I can find it, their actions that they are planning to take by 2030, because they have done so much so far and made so much progress towards their 2020 goals that I have no doubt that they will be able to meet at least 90% of the things that they're setting out to do by 2030. So I'm just gonna nitpick a few, because obviously this is a very progressive city, and so they have a lot of initiatives, so I'm only going to read a couple of them. So as far as building and energy, their 2030 objectives are to achieve zero net carbon emissions in all new buildings and homes, and to also reduce the total energy use of all buildings built before 2010 by 25%. As far as urban form and transportation, they want to reduce daily per capita vehicle miles traveled by 30% from 2008 levels. As far as consumption and solid waste, they also plan to reduce food scraps sent to landfills by 90%. And lastly, I just want to talk about community engagement, outreach, and education. And so their plan is to motivate all Multnomah County residents and businesses to change their behavior in ways that reduce carbon emissions. I could think of a couple ways that they're probably going to implement that, but obviously these are my guesses. So I think it is definitely possible, especially if part of that plan is to reach out to the younger generations and maybe do talks in elementary school, middle school, or high school classes, or all three, to have these kids from a young age be thinking about what their mark on the environment is. Obviously, no state is perfect. For example, Oregon does only have one coal-fired power plant in the whole entire state that is actually planning to shut down by 2025. But that alone doesn't mean that this is like the greenest place ever, just because they're still importing oil, or they're still importing coal from other states. They're just like, they don't have any within the boundaries of Oregon, which is good, but you know, like, they're doing an amazing job though. And I'm super happy to be living here and to have been able to be part of this. But I just wanted to like say, no place is perfect. Oregon is just very close to it. All right, guys, so that is it for today. Yeah, I know there's a lot that I could have talked about because I am learning environmental science in the state of Oregon, so trust me, there's a lot more things that I wish I could have said, but I thought this was just like a good little summary. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe, and comment down below what your favorite thing about the state of Oregon is and which state you think I should do next. I have some thoughts, but like, if anybody watching this has any suggestions of what they want to hear, definitely let me know. And yeah, don't forget to hug a tree. So bye.